and welcome back to Extra, your weekly LGBTQIA+ news roundup, in which I serve you all the tea on current events so that you don't have to do the deep diving yourself. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for joining me. Like and subscribe. I'm a brand new channel. I'm going to be putting these videos out every week. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let's get into it. In France a few days ago, a 24-year-old right-wing activist was sentenced to 4 months in prison and a fine of nearly 3,000 euros after protesting against a child-friendly drag reading at a local library/town hall. Fortunately, in France, hate speech against queer people is illegal, and the man in question was spewing hateful slogans through a megaphone.
Ew.
It's great news that the French government has our back, but also there's been such a big focus on drag artists in the media. I just want to say that, first and foremost, drag is an art form. And in itself, it is not a sexual thing. Drag artists don't aim to spread any kind of ideology. Ideology is the word that keeps coming up. There isn't one. The drag queens involved in this reading or in any child-friendly drag event, the reason that they're doing that is because they were kids once and they believe that if they'd seen representation of people like themselves when they were younger, they might have grown up happier. A queer person is something like twice as likely to experience mental health issues during their lifetime as a cis heterosexual person. So these drag queens that are part of this reading, all they want to do is show kids that it's okay to be flamboyant and to be different and to enjoy playing. That's because that's what it is. It's fine to enjoy playing. They're not at these readings telling kids to, I don't know, be gay. Nobody's doing that. There is no such thing as a queer agenda. In Hong Kong, a court has backed a previous ruling to subsidize same-sex couples' housing benefits. Gay marriage currently isn't legal in Hong Kong and is only recognized for certain things such as tax benefits and being able to sign a lease together and live together. So it's very positive news that the court has stuck with its previous ruling. Hopefully it'll be followed up with lots more progress towards LGBT+ acceptance. Staying in Asia, India's Supreme Court has declined the legalization of same-sex marriage just this past week. This isn't necessarily the terrible news that it sounds at first. Mainly the reason for this is that legislation isn't within their power and is something that lies with Parliament. That's just factually correct. It is Parliament that has to decide legislation. The reason this went to the Supreme Court in the first place is because the Indian Parliament had previously denied reviewing LGBT+ legislation. It's incredibly positive that a petition against Parliament's ruling has gotten so much traction that it led to the Supreme Court reviewing this decision, and I can only applaud the Indian people who stood up for queer rights. I do want to say that someone in Parliament called queer rights an urban elitist thing, and I'm just incredibly grateful to the Supreme Court judge that made sure to take a moment and address the fact that it's not an urban elitist thing. Queer people are everywhere. We're in the villages, we're on farms, we are in cities, and sure, cities do tend to attract queer people and artists just because it's easier to find acceptance and our tribe where there are more people and more ideas in one place, and that tends to be in cities. But queer people don't just exist in urban bubbles. We're everywhere. I am so excited about this next story. We're moving back to European mainland, specifically to Poland, where after 8 years of rule, their right-wing party has finally lost its majority. The 3 centre and centre-left parties that are now ruling, the 3 of them together will form a coalition, and this is very good news for all queer people and all people that differ from the norm in any way in Poland. Anyone who's been following news in the past few years will be aware that there have been LGBT plus free zones in Poland, and violence against queer people had reached an ultimate high over the past few years. And even though this ruling doesn't mean immediate good news, right? There's a lot of legislation that was introduced in the past 8 years that has to be reviewed and overturned, and it takes time. But it's such good news. So, oh my God, snaps for the people of Poland. Let's take a ferry to the UK. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak stays so true to his character. He has in a recent speech made very sure to emphasize that the government will keep its promise to ban conversion therapy. I just wonder what has prompted the Prime Minister to suddenly make headlines supporting the queer community. I wonder, is there potentially some sort of ulterior motive after his extremely transphobic comments just last week? It's a good reminder that not everybody is a bigoted yuckity-yuck of a human, but most people do in fact think that hate is maybe not the best thing to lead with. Not coincidentally, moving over to the US, the FBI has reported an increase in violence against queer people and people of color, as well as an increase in anti-Semitic crimes. What our leaders say, what our politicians say, what is being said about us in the media, and by us I just mean any marginalized group of people, has an effect. It makes sense that at a time when our leaders are targeting our community, it in a way gives permission to civilians to target our community as well. Let's move away from politics and shine a light on our queen, Madonna, who used the opening concert of her celebration tour at the London O2 Arena to bring awareness to all of the victims lost to the AIDS epidemic. Madonna has always been a huge supporter of the queer community, and her current concert tour is no different. As you can see, while she was singing and traveling through the auditorium in this lit cage, banners with pictures of people who have lost their lives to HIV were lowered into the auditorium, and it just was a really powerful moment. And to stand for something, to support marginalized groups in society, it just makes me really happy.
I just have a lot of feelings.
My utmost respect goes out to Madonna for using her platform in that way. Scotland has its first HIV awareness campaign on national television in 40 years. The commercial by the Terence Higgins Trust aims to tackle stigma against HIV, with the slogan, "Stigma is more harmful than HIV." Nowadays, there are medications that tackle the virus, that make it undetectable and untransmittable. And I think it's really important that we continue to talk about HIV, that people continue to get tested for it, and that they're aware that it's not a death sentence. I do think the commercial has a very dark tone to it. Yes, HIV and any illness is a serious matter, but maybe if the tone of the advert had been a little bit more hopeful and more focused on, hey, there's help, your quality of life doesn't have to suffer because you transmitted HIV, instead of focusing so much on the hurt that people experience due to stigma. Personally, I think a campaign that led with hope rather than with pain might have been more effective. Either way, it is a very positive thing to be putting out there, and HIV awareness is something that we need to push and get behind. Liz Kokab, a trans woman, has won the 2023 FIE World Fencing Championships in her category, which is 70 years plus. In reading about this story, I found out that the US Fencing Federation has always been quite queer-friendly, and especially most recently has been very vocal about being both queer and trans inclusive, and making sure that everybody is able to play and compete representing the gender that they identify with. So anyone looking to take up a new sport in the US, maybe fencing is the thing. We've got more positive news in science, namely that one of the UK's leading medical textbooks, Breast Surgery, will include gender-affirming top surgery in it for the first time ever. I can't believe that it's taken until 2023 to get us here. You know, breast surgery isn't just breast augmentation, and education and access to information is so important. So this is a huge step in normalizing gender-affirming care, and it's very positive news. And now, our weekly awards section. We've got the Slay of the Week, and we've also got the Ew of the Week. Because I want to end this video on a positive note, we're going to start out with the Ew of the Week, which goes to Greater Manchester mayoral candidate Nick Buckley.
Why are you the way that you are?
Pictured here. I said this in my previous video, I'll say it again, sex and gender are separate. Nobody is denying biological sex. Nobody is trying to take anything away from cis people. I can confidently proclaim as a cis woman myself. And yet, here we are with cis people continuously feeling somehow threatened by the fact that trans people even exist. You know, Nick, if you're lucky, you might actually meet a trans person at some point who might open your eyes to the fact that, hey, we're all human. And our Slay of the Week goes to, the people of Poland. Yes, Poland. Not only did this election have a voters' turnout of nearly 75%, which is incredibly high, but you finally got rid of your horrible, bigoted, terrorizing government and replaced them with a government for the people. I hope the rest of Europe takes your lead. Let's get back to a time where the government is by the people, for the people, and be inspired by the Polish people. Woo! Hey! If you've watched until the very end of my second ever video, thank you so much for sticking it out until now. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel. This is going to be a weekly series. Watch last week's video if you're not completely up to date, and hope to see you next week. Bye!